Boy, oh boy, what a day, what a day. Hope you guys had a great day out there. Happy Tuesday to you. We're getting ready for Wednesday's trading session, and there are a bunch of great trades on my radar for Wednesday. I'm going to cover all my favorite trades in tonight's video. That way you have a game plan to make some money on Hump Day, Wednesday's trading session. As always, before we jump in and get this video going, hit that like button if you guys enjoy the content here tonight, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow night's video. In the meantime, let's get ready for Wednesday. Get a bunch of great trades on our radar for a wacky Wednesday. Boy, get a lot of bullish opportunities here going into tomorrow. Bullish on the S&P, bullish on the Nasdaq. Not quite bullish just yet on the oil, but if you recall from last night's video, we had that big move up, and this is that deep pullback we're looking for here on the crude oil. Boy, get a lot of great trades here setting up for Wednesday. The buyers would love to get some breakouts up to that 4120 area on the S&P, up to that 12,800 area on the Nasdaq. We definitely have some breakouts on the S&P and the Nasdaq on our radar, but you know where we are right now? We're right up around some of these major highs here. So you know me, I love me some of those double top reversals. I've definitely got some reversal setups on my radar for tomorrow. We'll talk about how to buy the breakout, how to sell the failure off of that high. And again, we'd love to get that pullback and a snap right back up to retest those highs ahead of rollover tomorrow on crude oil. We'll talk about how to buy it as it goes higher to keep yourself out of trouble. We'll also talk about what to do if this thing rolls over and ends up tumbling lower here, because you know these markets, anything is possible right now. Now tomorrow is a Wednesday, so before we jump into each individual chart, again, I'm going to cover all my favorite trades in tonight's video. That way you know exactly where the best entries and exits are going to be for tomorrow. But speaking of tomorrow though, don't forget we got two important news events tomorrow morning. One is that housing starts number. Now, this is not the biggest news event in the world. It really isn't the biggest news of the week. But I bring this up for tomorrow, not just because it's a Red Star news event, but because, remember, over the past few weeks, you know, for example, we saw retail sales still hold strong, even in the face of this 40-year record high inflation right now. So the last few weeks, if you guys have been watching this video, I've been talking a lot about how these news events coming out, everyone's kind of waiting to see if these higher prices, a slowdown in the economy. Of course, Powell talked about raising rates aggressively this afternoon. So the bottom line is tomorrow, we're all watching to see, will those housing starts, you know, interest rates are at the highest they've been since 2009. Home prices just skyrocketed over the pandemic. We'll see tomorrow if that has any impact on these housing starts, because everyone I talk to right now, all the big players I talk to, they're all kind of waiting for that first sign of the cracks of some of this stuff coming out. Again, it hasn't happened yet, right? Retail sales look pretty strong today. Will tomorrow be that day where we see one of these events, right? Will it be tomorrow's news? Will it be home sales on Thursday? Definitely watching that tomorrow to see if we see any surprises out of that number, and that could really lead to kind of a cascade effect in the rest of these markets here tomorrow. If you're trading oil, we love oil in our trade room. Oil report tomorrow at 10:30 Eastern time. That is definitely something you want to avoid trading around. Remember, give it that 10 minute before, 10 minute after. And remember, oil is in rollover right now. We are on the 0622 today. We'll make the move up to the 0722 contract tomorrow. I will be analyzing and, of course, talking about that 722 contract, that July contract, as we go into tonight's video. We get the little Fed speakers tomorrow. Wouldn't worry about that too much. The big news for tomorrow will be, though, that housing starts. Will they start to show signs of some pulling back on this? And how will that oil report affect the oil market? Those are the two big market moving events tomorrow. Don't forget, we open up at 8 o'clock Eastern time in our trade room. Don't be late, because we've got the housing starts number at 8:30 Eastern time. Let's get back to our charts, though. Now we know the big events for tomorrow, what's affecting these markets on a bigger picture. Let's get back into each one of these charts here. Now, guys, I'm going to go over all my favorite trades in tonight's video. Whether you trade one of these markets or you trade all of these markets, I'm going going to cover all my favorite setups, my favorite entry and exit points. You'll learn something new throughout the entire video here tonight. So whether you trade one or you trade them all, make sure you stick around for the entire lesson, because you know how we do it here. I like to kind of wrap it all together and save the best stuff towards the end of this video. So I'll give you a reason to stick around all the way to the end. Let's jump in first tonight though with the S&P 500. We'll go Emini, we'll go Nasdaq, and we'll wrap things up here with the black gold, the Texas tea, the crude oil futures. Over on the S&P though, what's the most important factor on the S&P? This is a very simple scenario right now. We had that, kind of China end of lockdown pump in the overnight, right, in the Asian session. Anytime we see a strong move in one direction, what do we always talk about? A deep pullback and a retest of this high, right? That's exactly what they got. It took them a while today, but we were definitely looking for those deep pullbacks all morning this morning in our trade room. Strong move up. We now retest the high. Now it's, where do we go from here, right? That's basically the question right now. To the buyers, do they push through and get up into this big range overhead? This is a big range from, long time ago, more than a couple of weeks ago. But this range overhead is a magnet. You have to think eventually these buyers would love to get up into that range and take out some of these prior big levels of resistance, 41.48, 41.70 area up overhead. So buyers, they want to continue this good stuff going higher, right? And really kind of slingshot and break out through this area here and get up into that range up overhead. We definitely have some buy setups here, some breakouts as we go here right now. The sellers, obviously, the sellers are hoping they have a say in this, right? The bears are going, wait a second here. We want to sell now off of that high, right? And take out some of these lows down here, right? That's what the bears want to get to. And if they have their way, they'll go back down and bury things back down to that 4,000 range where we began the week here this week. So that's the most important thing I see on this chart here right now. We can trade breakouts going higher. We can trade reversals or failures, right, coming off of that high. And that's kind of the key component here on the S&P. So let's talk about what if it goes higher, what if it goes lower, kind of how I'll be looking to trade this tomorrow morning with all the students in the trade room tomorrow. Let's talk about breakouts. Right? There are 4 different types of breakouts. I'll cover a couple of them here on this video, and we'll cover, on this chart, and we'll cover a few more here on the Nasdaq as we go. Keep in mind, this measured move is really just kind of an educated guess on this right now. New day tomorrow, it'll reset those measured moves, but I want to kind of give you an idea of kind of where that level might be. Let's talk about some breakouts here. The most obvious breakout pattern right now is setting up right now. In other words, we have a 1, 2, 3 breakout going higher. Now, we talk about these a lot in this video, right? It's not enough to simply get a strong pop higher. The buyers have to hold this pullback and really jump, right? Not only off the moving average, but jump through that big previous high here. That's a 1, 2, 3 breakout pattern, and these are really easy to trade. You can mark off a trend line off the high, bring that trend line down to that low, and then here's the trick. Look left, find some of those prior swings, and try to get just underneath one of those prior swings. What this does is this traps in the opposite side of the market. And speaking of traps are my favorite entry below that prior swing. So traps, I like to look for bears coming in. See how back here, right, how they pull back and the bears sort of get short and you can buy into those stops? Same thing up here, right? So rope in those bears with a failure setup. Failures often turn into pullbacks, and we can go forward from there, right? Again, this is a great easy breakout pattern. 1, 2, 3 breakout. Find that new bull channel, okay? Draw it nice and tight off those highs. Again, find that first pullback off of that low, grab that grab that trap, grab that failure, grab that pullback combination. Now, speaking of traps and failures and pullbacks, now I know a lot of you guys have already taken the free trading course we talk about here in this video. You've learned the setups, you know the rules. I'll tell you, I get so many great emails every week right now. People have taken the free course on the website, making money on their own, not even part of our trade room yet. And just, it's such an inspiration to me. So if you haven't taken that free trading course yet, you got to stop what you're doing here, and I'll put a little link up here for you. I'll put a link up here for you for our free trading course. Learn the game plan, learn the setups. That way you'll know what traps and failures and pullback combos look like. More importantly though, you'll know the rules so you know when to take them and when to skip them. I'll tell you, if you're like me and you hate missing the best trades each day, that free trading course will give you a roadmap, get you back on track, and get you making some money on your own account. That way you'll be ready for trading with us in our trade room. And most importantly, you'll know what a 1, 2, 3 breakout looks like. You'll know how to find that channel, and you'll know how to grab that first pullback. Now, there are a couple different breakouts we can use on this. You know, for example, there's a big wide open space over there. So one of my favorite breakouts, whenever we have like a big gap, right? Big range, kind of a vacuum effect oftentimes happens. And so my favorite breakout is a 2-try breakout. A 2-try breakout is really simple. It's a very strong pop-up, you know, so pop-up overnight. It's a shallow pullback. It's a higher high in price, and it's a trap low. Okay, that little trap low. This is one of my favorite, and it's such a simple pattern setup. It's a strong move. That's the key, right? Real strong move. It's the shallow pullback and the higher high. Now keep in mind, you have to have all those rules put together. For example, look back here, right? There's a strong move up right there. There's a shallow pullback, but see, there's no higher high, right? It's not the same setup. I just want to make sure I make that very clear, okay? A strong move up needs to have that higher high associated with it, because that's going to confirm, well, it confirms it's not this. Because oftentimes it'll go up and kind of, you know, bleed lower like that. So look for that 2-try breakout as we're going higher here. And then again, we're looking at that, 41.34 area, those levels overhead here for our next objectives as we go higher. I would also keep an eye out for a range up here. This is a range up here. So be aware, if we pop up and we start going sideways here, overnight or early tomorrow morning, this is a bull market into a trading range now. What do we do with the bull market into a range? We look left, we find prior swings, we find trend lines. We ultimately want to find levels of support below that trading range. This is highly likely tomorrow, right? Because again, we've got that pop up into another range up here. So if we do start going sideways, don't force those trades. Find those levels of support below the range, and then wait for those buyers to run out of bullets. Once they run out of bullets, the price will pull back into that support area, and now you've got the setup. Now wait for the bears to come in and try to get short, right? Again, look back here, right? This happens all the time. Once we find a bull market and we start seeing it go sideways in a range, it'll spit below, the bears will try to sell it, and you can literally make money by just buying into those stop losses. So over here, same idea over here. Right? Same idea. So while the market pulls back here now we know where those stops are. So if we do end up popping up, going sideways, just wait for that pullback, get down to an area of support. You'll learn the best support levels in that free trading course. Don't worry. And then we'll look for that short off the moving average. I'm not a big fan of trying to pick that bottom. It can be difficult to know how far that little pullback will go. But once those bears commit, bingo, then we can be the buyer right into those stops from there. Bullish into a trading range. Find those support levels below it. Wait for the buyers to give up a little bit. It'll pull back and then trap in those bears for a retest back up to those highs here of that trading range. I really, really like that setup here going higher on the S&P and the Nasdaq. Now, what if we pull back right now? What if we pull back here? For example, we've got a trend line going higher, a beautiful channel here. Now, what's the problem here if we pull back? What would you say is my biggest concern? Well, remember, go back and think about what happened with this, right? So what's the overall situation? The overall situation is we had a strong move up, Remember, anytime we see a strong move, we expect a retest of that high, right? What do we always say? Mission accomplished. Remember that? Mission accomplished. Now, if we pull back, and I agree, there's a great channel right here. I love that channel. It's drawn off the highs, down to those lows. I like the buy right here, but I don't like what? I don't like the fact that we're buying right into that high. So remind me again, if you watched last night's video, remind me what is the best entry setup if you're trying to avoid either buying high or selling too low. It's a trap. It's a trap, baby. Absolutely. So you want to see that pullback now, but now we have to basically trap in the bears, right? We have to, think of it this way. There aren't going to be a lot of big money buyers that are buying that pullback. So we need to get something else to be our edge, right? Anytime we buy anywhere, right? Want to buy off support, but we need some sort of edge. And to get that edge, we're not going to have the big money in there because the big money will be buying down here. They want to buy really low. This will be a more aggressive entry to buy here. We need that edge. And to get that edge, we use those traps, right? We use those stops. We do. Look for those traps here on the S&P, on that shallow pullback. Let those bears try a couple times, grab that trap. That'll keep you out of trouble buying into that high. And again, it will use the sellers and use their exits as fuel to give you that edge. Take that price going higher there. I like that trade as well here. I like that one as well. Now, how do we sell it back down and then buy it back up? That's the next big question on our radar. And why don't we go take a look at the NASDAQ on this one because, well, the NASDAQ is almost identical here to the Emini S&P. Let's keep going. How about some NASDAQ here right now? NASDAQ, very, very similar, right? I mean, it's almost the same exact chart. What's the most important factor right now on the NQ? It's a very strong run higher. To start the day off, anytime we see a really strong move in one direction, we expect a relatively deep pullback and a retest of that high. Obviously, Jerome Powell came in. He interrupted the party for a little while, but they eventually mission accomplished. The buyers accomplished their objective, as we call it. Now the question is, now what? Right? Now what? Do we break out and go higher? The NASDAQ has a ton of open space overhead. Again, I wouldn't bank on that measured move being the end-all, be-all. And really, at this point, it's a placeholder. But look at how big that open space is up overhead. That's because of that big move down that we saw. I can't recall what date it was, right? But a few weeks ago. It wasn't just recently here. So we know we have the buyers. They would love to slingshot this sucker up through those highs. The sellers, of course, right? The sellers, they would love to short this thing off the high. And the buyers would like to pick it right back up and buy the low of what is really one big trading range. So a lot of this is going to be overlapping, obviously. You know, we talked about that 1, 2, 3 breakout on the S&P. That definitely applies here. Find that new channel, grab those traps, grab those failures, grab those pullback combos off the low of that channel. Love that setup for tomorrow. I would also definitely keep your eyes on that. What was it called again? 2-try breakout or 2-try trap, strong move up, shallow pullback to the moving average, higher high in price. What we always say, traps, baby. Great setup there. Love that long setup as we go higher from there. Here's one more. I like this one too. I love, you know me, I love this one, the pop and grind. All right, the pop and grind. I love it whenever we see a pop and a grind. These might be my favorite types of channels right now. You know, the markets always go through seasons. So we get, sometimes we get a lot of channels that are the same way. In fact, you can actually see an example right here, right? Not the best location for it, but notice how we pop and we grind, right? You can take that trend line, you can bring it right down that low, and you want to buy that, first test. And see how, look, see how they trap in those bears? Right? See how they get below the moving average? And once those bears come in to sell it short, they simply light up those stops like a Christmas tree. Makes sense? Right? That is the same type of channel I think we can definitely look forward to up here. Right? Hopefully it will pop. And then again, instead of pulling back and jumping, right, which would be a 1, 2, 3 breakout pattern, we buy that channel low, right? You know that already. It'll pop, it'll grind. and grind. Now, these can be tricky because they feel like something's wrong because they usually are moving pretty slowly here. But don't you worry. Those grinders are usually stops getting hit and the opposite side of the market getting out. So draw that channel nice and tight off those highs. Right? They're going to do over here, right? Nice and tight off those highs, off that low. You got it, off that low. And then what I always do is look at those prior swings, right? Look at those prior swings. Try to get underneath one of those prior swings. That's usually where the best money is. And then trap in the bears off the moving average. You got a trap set up, a failure set up, a pullback set up. Again, I'll take whichever entry pattern I can get off that channel. In this case, it was a trap. Nice deep pullback, in this case, a failure, right? Rope in the bears and then buy into those stop losses. There won't always be a failure. Sometimes it's a pullback off the moving average, okay? So we'll see more of that, of course, tomorrow. And you'll see a lot of examples of these, obviously, in that free trading course that I mentioned, linked up, by the way. If you haven't grabbed it yet, make sure you grab that link that's up there in the upper right-hand corner. You're going to love that free class. We also talked about the pop in the range. Okay, that is definitely applicable here on the NASDAQ as well. Mark up those prior swings, wait for the drop, wait for that pop back up, right? It's a very, very easy trade on a bull market into a trading range. Okay, now, and we covered, of course, that shallow pullback as well. Perfect. Now, how do we sell off this high and how do we buy it back up again? So what's the problem right now to get short? There's always two important questions that you want to think about. How's my location and how is my momentum? If you ask yourself these two questions or this question every time before you take a trade, you're going to find yourself avoiding a lot more losses in your trading. For example, how is my location right now to be a seller? I would say it's pretty darn good. Why? Because we're at a major level of resistance and with what it looks like a range below us. Right? Ranges, of course, love to act like magnets. So as far as location goes, it's fantastic. You can't really get much better than this. We want to sell high, sell at resistance. Perfect. So location is primo. How about momentum though? Yeah, see, that's the problem, right? Momentum is not good, right? Why? Because we're bullish. Remember, we can't just sell at resistance when the market's a bull market. You know, I mean, I can't see it. I can't see it will never work because even a broken clock is right twice a day. Yeah, I mean, you can sell that resistance to make some money here and there, but if you want to make money consistently every day, you have to get some sort of edge in your trading, and momentum is usually the edge. You know what I mean? Usually, when you combine location with momentum, that's what gives you that good edge. If you got a good location and you don't have a lot of momentum on your side, you have to do something to give yourself that edge. And that something, in my experience, the way I do it is I like to trap in or kind of rope in the opposite side of the market and use their exits as that edge. If I want to be a seller, I want to try to trap in some of these buyers and use their exits. Because think about it, if you're a buyer and you're trying to buy into these highs right now, if you get stopped out, what happens? You become a seller. So that's the goal, to sell at the high. And this is honestly one of my favorite trades. And we talked about this last night on this video. We mentioned those double top reversals. So how do we do it? Well, now we've got that retest. So now all we need is to get those buyers to buy shallow pullbacks. Not up here, right? Not up here, but like right here. We have to get these buyers now. And I use what we call the 2-try rule, right? You want to see them try once. You want to see them try twice. Okay, the reason for this is a lot of times the markets make these big, strong moves and they'll try once, they'll try twice before they start to roll over. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That, I want to see it over here. Okay, makes sense so far? So if I have this market now retesting the high and the buyers come in, they try once, they try twice. Now this is where the edge gets involved. This is where the edge comes in. Where are their stops? Where are the stops? Stops are right below that low. Where is, or as I would say, where's their pain? Right? Where are the buyers in trouble? And that's exactly where I want to be selling. Now, when you do this off the high like this, the next step now is where do these sellers want to go? They want to go and take out these lows. That's kind of the extreme of this range, right? So now find that new channel one of my favorite parts of this strategy is find that new channel. Don't draw it like this. Draw it off those lows and then take that trend line, bring it up around that high, and look for another one of our entry setups off the high of that channel. So again, this is a 2-try failure to sell off the high because again, we're in a great location for it, but we need to get that momentum to turn for us. 2-try failure, that triggers the short. We're selling into our stops, using that as my catalyst, as my edge. Then, as the market rolls off that high, we now know, remember, the way that ranges work is the market loves to rotate. It's going to want to rotate back down to those lows. Before we take out these lows down here, okay, make sure you know that. Before we take out these lows down here, we have to then get that first pullback. You want that first pullback. The first pullback, the first test is the best test. And again, I'm obviously simplifying this right now. This is, I'm not going into all the detail of the specific entry techniques, how the moving average should look. You'll see a lot of examples of those to learn from inside that free trading course that I mentioned earlier. Where do the bears want it? They want to get it down to take out these lows. Now, at that point, what do we do down here? And remember, guys, this all applies to the S&P as well, right? This all applies to the S&P too. So everything I'm talking about right now can also be overlaid on the Emini. So what if we get down to those lows, right? What if we do end up down to those lows now? Now what do we do? Well, remember, this is still a range, okay? This is still a range here. So can I buy it going back up? Absolutely I can. It's a great location to buy. What's the problem though? Momentum, right? Momentum, why? Isn't it a bull market? Well, it is, but that's a lot of movement. That's a big move off that high. And so when it pulls back like that, I always like to, whenever we have a market that goes up above the range and then comes crashing down below, we call this rotation off the high. So if we do end up down at those lows, then we use that same exact setup, right? We try to go 1, we try to go 2, we light up those stops. We use, I'll go out and grab like a trend line right there, find a little support trend line, try to get early entries on that. But again, all those stops are sitting right above that high right now. Where do the buyers want to go? They want to go back up and take out that high again. So now what I can do is I can grab that trend line, find that channel, drill it down to my faster time frame, and we'll take the entry, trap, failure, pullback combo off of that low. Is that making sense? Those 2-try failures. Again, when the market is rotating with these wide ranges like that, great locations for it, but momentum is the problem, right? Now, what about this? Could I sell down there? At what point could I sell at that point? Well, if we end up down around those lows and the bears can come over and hold that pullback and jump off the moving average. Okay, now remember, it doesn't matter how strong that leg is. We saw one very strong there. Okay, the bears have to hold it and jump. Okay, just like that breakout pattern that has to go up and jump going higher, right? It's the same basic idea. Think about, remember, the range is a magnet. So we have to break free of that kind of magnetic field, if you will. Okay, we got to have that strong jump off that moving average. Once they get those 1, 2, 3 breakouts, now we're good to go, right? Now we can mark up that low. We can mark off that high. Remember, look left. Find those prior swings. Get above those prior swings. That will usually put you just above the moving average. Trap setups, failure setups as the buyers come in and try to buy going back up into that trading range. And we'll run it back down, potentially 12,200, 12,150. These are some support levels we had from last night's video. So we know where the buyers or where the sellers want to go there as well. I would also keep an eye on something like this. If it was to kind of cruise lower and begin to grind. Remember those grinders I was talking about earlier? Same thing here. We see a lot of that where it'll go up, it'll spit out the other end, and again, it could happen here. Right? It could easily slingshot higher into a grind, right? We find those tighter channels. buy that pullback. Same idea as we go lower. Mark that low, mark that bigger high, wait for that pop up. Right? Remember, anytime we see a real strong move in one direction, the odds are very good that we get back right down to retest that low. I want that first test off the high of that channel, so keep that idea on your radar as well. I really like a lot of these trades here for tomorrow. Right now, it's just all about what do we get? You know, my job tonight is to plan my trades. Tomorrow, we'll trade our plan. No, we got a good game plan put together here. Wrapping things up here tonight on the oil. Oil is in the middle of rollover right now. This is the 722 contract, as you can see here right now. It does look like tomorrow will be the rollover. I think today was probably the official rollover day on crude oil. But you know, as I always mention on these videos, and we talk about in our free trading course, it's all about when the volume rolls over. And so we're probably looking at 722 contract for tomorrow. This is the July 2022 contract, as you can see here tonight. What's the most important thing happening right now on the crude oil? Well, you can see we are kind of a little bit ahead of where we are, or no, behind where the Eminis are right now. We had that big move up yesterday. We talked about how anytime we see a really big move in one day, ranges are very, very common. That's exactly what we got, basically, right? A trading range. And we also know that anytime we see a strong move, we're looking for a deep pullback. We mentioned these areas in last night's video, and now we're trying to go back up to retest that high. So again, it's basically just like what the S&P and the Nasdaq have already accomplished. We just simply, we're now a little bit behind schedule here on the crude oil. So it's a pretty simple idea here. The kind of the main component right now on this, if you understand kind of the bigger picture idea of that strong move up, trying to get that retest of that high, the next kind of wrinkle in this, the next kind of aspect of this is the strength of that last move lower. You know, we talked about yesterday how a really deep pullback is nice, but with that deep pullback, you pay a price for it. And what's the price? Momentum. And so this is a great example where buyers would love to buy into failures, right? Trap in some of those sellers. So in these situations, you'll notice what I've done here. I've got two channels. Obviously drawing that channel at the high. And this is a great example of how I like to draw my channels. You know, it's almost like a little pop and grind, right? Where you draw it right off that high and then bring it right down to that low. Isn't that cool? That's a really cool way to draw channels. If this is something that you've used in your trading, let me know in the comment section, would you? I would love to know, maybe down in the comment section, if you've used any of these tools to make money this week. I've had a lot of emails from you guys the last few weeks. It's been great to hear from you, but I'd love to know in the comment section how you guys are using it, different markets you're applying it to, because obviously I'm just using the oil futures on this one. You could apply this to any of these markets here across the board, but I'd love to hear how you like this stuff in the comment section below. Anyways, that channel looks great. Now, what's my concern here? My concern is it's a very deep pullback, right? Really, really strong, deep pullback. And so my concern is that we're probably going to have a lot of bears coming in. You know, there's a trend line coming down overhead here. This is where you want to think like a seller. You know, put yourself in the shoes of the sellers and say, okay, if I was trying to sell this, if I didn't know any better, you know what I mean? If I didn't know how the markets work, if I didn't know any better right now, and I was going to sell this market, where would I be trying to sell? And the answer is at the top of a channel, at some level of resistance overhead. So this is really the magic area. Not so much to be a buyer, but to trap in some of these sellers, right? So as we start to go higher here right now, this is where a 1, a 2, a failure will come in. Remember, think about this. Get those bears to come in, try to get them to sell short, right? We can use their stops as fuel, because if you're a seller and you get stopped out, what happens? You become a buyer. So at that point now the buyers are buying and the sellers are now buying. Where's the target? Yeah, that's the easy part. Back up to retest that high here. One of my favorite entries on this will be a trap entry. So bears try once, bears try twice, and a trap entry. These are always the best in these sort of situations, right? You get that really deep, deep pullback. The bears come in. They're trying to sell off these levels of resistance here. Let them try a couple times. 1, 2, and again, get that trap. The trap is a money trade and a little bit more advanced tactic. Okay, so watch closely here. I can draw a trend line across those highs. See, I'm going with this. Draw off the low, and that creates, it's tough to lose money with that type of setup because now you're buying a trap, a little hidden channel. The bears are roped in. That's an easy slingshot move right back up to retest the high. I love that move going back up to retest the high. Now, one important thing to kind of keep in mind is that as this market becomes going higher, okay, as we get closer to retesting that high, the more important it becomes to get a trap entry. Why? Because traps are the best when you're trying to avoid buying high, buying into resistance or selling low. We talked about that earlier on the S&P, right? If all I have is a shallow pullback, right? So if this thing goes like this and goes all the way up like that, then absolutely a trap is necessary. It's non-negotiable, right? You need a trap at that point. Why? Because you're buying really high at that point, comparably speaking. Make sense? So make sure you keep that in mind as we go higher. Now, is it possible this market might roll over and go lower? Absolutely it is. In all reality, this move higher here, it's a deep pullback. There is a trend line coming down overhead. So for all I know, they're going to hold this and run it back down. This is exactly where one of those reversals comes in handy, right? So now let's say, for example, right, they pull it back and they dump going back down again. What do you do now? Right? What's the plan now? If it rolls over and goes lower, you know what to do. Draw that trend line off that low, off that high, right? Find those prior swings, grab that trap, grab that failure, and where does the bears want to go at that point? They want to take out that low. There's a big bullseye right on 106, 105.75. That definitely is your short right there. I would also say, too, watch out that little pop and grind. Gotta love those. Pop and grind. Find that channel, mark that high, get that trap, and hit them as we go lower. We see a lot of these pop and grinds. They're very, very common patterns. And again, let me know what you think in the comments section. And hopefully by now you've subscribed to the YouTube channel, right? If you're still watching this video right now, you are the person I do these videos for. So make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification. That way you don't miss any of the videos going forward here. So now we've talked about kind of how to buy it as it's going higher, right? And how to sell it as it's going lower here. That covers that pretty well. What if we end up back up to retest the high here? Then what do we do? Can I sell it off the high? You can. Remember those two questions though. How's my location? Great. How's my momentum? Not good to sell. It's good for a buyer, right? But not for selling. What do? Exactly. You rope in those buyers because you need something to give you an edge. Okay, professionals are not going to buy up there, or sell up there. Well, should I say that, right? We don't have momentum on our side. That's the big problem up here, right? Excuse me. So once those buyers try a couple times, now we can use those stop losses as fuel. Get rid of this big channel here for a moment. We go up, we retest the high. Then buyers with lots of resistance up top here. This 1383 level, by the way, is a major top. I can't recall the exact date from that top, but it's a very big top there. 113.83 is the exact top of that again, prior big top back there. So they do take out those highs here. I love it. I love that one to rope in some of those buyers, use their exits for fuel, for gasoline, if you will, going lower, right? Sell right into those stops with that 2-try failure. And then what? Grab that new channel, find those first test is the best test, traps off of that high. Where do the bears want to go at that point? Easy. Take out those lows. That's where they want to go at that point. And then again, from there, it might keep going with a breakout going lower. It may bounce twice and back up into that range again. We've talked about this game plan a couple times already, so don't be afraid to go back and rewatch this on the Nasdaq, because we just kind of talked about this whole scenario on the Nasdaq. That can definitely play in here on the oil. If we end up back at these highs and the buyers come in, they hold that pullback and they jump. Yep, it's on, baby. It's on. That's a breakout. Now we don't bother with big channels. Okay, do not bother with big channels. Find that nice tight channel off those highs, down to that low. Find those traps, grab them. First test is the best test. Easy trade. Don't worry about that pendulum swing at that point. Okay, do not worry about where you are at that point. If you have enough momentum, remember, anytime we see a strong move in one direction, it's almost a guarantee we'll retest that high. And then from there, maybe we do 1, 2, back down into that trading range. Definitely keep an eye on that here for tomorrow. Or, again, same before, that kind of pop up and that grind. Pop and grind. Love those too. Don't be afraid for the pop and grinds as well. So lots of different ways in which we can buy this as we go higher. Where would the buyers want to go to? Boy, there's a lot of open space on all these. Look at this open space up there, right? Until 121.35, and then we start getting into that territory of those recent major highs in the 120s, in the 126s. So we'll see how we do on that. Right now, though, let's focus on getting those bears trapped in, back up to retest the high. Then do we get the short off the high, or do we pop through and up to that 115 and to the moon, right? And beyond from there. I'll tell you right now, a lot of these are really good, high quality setups here for tomorrow. My job tonight was to plan our trades. Now we can trade our plan tomorrow morning. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, every morning, we get together, we trade together, we execute the game plan, following a simple set of rules. If you hate missing the best trades each day, or you're taking too many losses, or you're making a lot of mental mistakes, or maybe you're like me and you just love to be with somebody else to kind of give you something to focus on every day. When I was a new trader, the best thing I ever did was get a mentor and a coach trade along with every day. I had horrible anxiety when I was trading as a new trader. I was losing money almost every week. So our trade room is a great place to learn and trade along and make sure you're doing it the right way without forcing bad trades. Trading is hard enough as it is. Doing it on your own and trying to piece it all together with just a bunch of YouTube videos is very, very difficult. I'm sure you've already learned that the hard way. So do whatever it takes, get into our trade room, come out and trade it with us tomorrow morning. I'll put all the membership links, all the free course links. I'll put everything you need to get going here. Definitely grab the free course or get started as a new member, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at the opening bell. If you have any questions at all, any questions here, I know I do move quickly on these videos. I have to kind of keep the videos as short as I can, but when you call the office, we'll slow it down. We'll make sure you have all the tools put together, the computer, the broker, the software. I'll get you a copy of all the software tools that you need, everything ready to go for the trade room. I'll look forward to answering the call. So don't be afraid to call the office. And again, if you have any questions here, drop those questions in the comments section. And hopefully by now, hit that like button for me if you guys enjoyed the video here tonight. But that's it for me tonight, guys. Have a great rest of your evening. As always, my name is Joseph. Be well out there. Be nice to each other, will ya? And you better be here next time. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.